The following was recorded during the COVID-19 pandemic through Zoom meetings in accordance with local health guidelines. Hi, I'm Mike Maloney, and welcome to another CSRM podcast. Today's episode is hosted by Dr. Greg Linville.
Hi, welcome back again. We're in our second podcast with CSRM, talking about Overwhelming Victory Radio. Last time, if you missed it, we talked about where CSRM is going. We've got a transition. David has faithfully served as our executive director for the last 3 years. He's staying on our staff. He's going in to the academic liaison. I believe that's your official title, David. You're not moving away from us. You're moving deeper into a different area with certification and degrees in sports ministry. And Dan Stouffer is coming on as the executive director. And we've talked about that. And we have also given you a little bit of a teaser to know that we're talking about some other of the new podcasts that we're going into. And we are going to talk right now with Dwight and Angela McDowell. And Dwight has been our board chair for a number of years now, and been on, I should say he's been on the board for a number of years. I think you're in your first year as the director of that, the chairperson of the board.
That's correct.
And you have been, the two of you, involved in some really amazing ministries that center around mentoring and particularly about marriage. And we see it on your t-shirts, the marriage map. Tell us a little bit about what that is, and then also begin into what you're going to be doing in your podcast.
All right, I'll start us from how we got to here, and then I'll let my wife share how we became marriage map and what we do there, because she sounds way better than me. But I just want to start off reminding everybody that we are sports ministers, and that's where we come from. We founded the sports ministry program in our neighborhood many years ago, back in the 90s, and we didn't know we were founding sports ministry. We were just trying to kind of corral all of our kids, and we had so many kids just running around, and then I saw some other parts of football taking place, and I trying to piggybacked off another program that eventually one day walked up and told me, hey, you inherited this whole thing. And so we just keep walking through for the next 3 or 4 years, just trying to do it. And my wife is not with me at that time. We're married and everything, but doing the sports program, she's not, for about the first 3 years of that. And then somewhere around the 4th year, it's just, I was getting so worn down, and she was like lending me out to the neighborhood. And we continue to move forward. And then somebody asked me one day, said, well, where's your wife? I mean, and how we could get better. And I said, well, she's really not into sports ministry, and she's not into, at that time, we didn't call it sports. She's not into the athletic association, stuff like that. She does her thing. And somewhere along that line, when I told her about that, something kind of triggered, like, wait a minute. Really, we didn't even know that she wasn't into sports. But we took it as a thing of, one might play football or baseball and that type thing. But my wife eventually partnered and tag team, and then we began to grow. The next 3 years would be so incredible as a unit, that we noticed that she eventually started coaching like little league soccer and indoor, and continued to tell me ways of how she think that little kids 5 to 8 years old, they need to practice so many days a week. And we would go back and forth. And so finally I said, okay, just try 1 day a week. And we did. And she won a championship. She led them to a championship. So we went on again and did that. But what I'm saying to you, and she won a championship the second time. So here we are a couple years later, and we noticed that when we work together as sports minister couple, not only were we seeing success in the program growing, but other couples and some that weren't married couples were coming up to us, or if they weren't coming, they were always watching what we did as a team. And so some
I
years
need to
ago.
stop you right there. Angela, can you take him one-on-one?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, I thought that. Not only are you the better coach because you're winning the championships, but you're the better athlete, right? Okay, go ahead, Dwight. I just wanted to get that clear. Go ahead.
I will add that as our new executive director comes on, I hope he won't be like the current executive director and the past executive director that holds favors for my wife over me.
You got to go with what's right, man.
But she has literally. I've been to more coached us to more championships and different sports. She's actually won more than me when we count the numbers. So, but then we noticed some of our hardships, I should say, and just some complicated times where we were just not meeting on even ground. And so when we start talking about it, we noticed that when we were doing better, when we let each other know what we were doing and how we did it, and she began to come and give what she had, which may have not been playing the sport. It could have been coaching sport. Sometimes she just talked to the women that were there, and it kind of showed a different presence of not having, help me out there, baby. How do we kind of?
Yeah, I mean, he made it very pretty, but it was ugly for a little while, trying to get grounded in the sports association, then turned into a sports ministry, and it was a lot of praying, a lot of I want to help, but you can't coach me. So he was trying to coach me. I'm like, you're not coaching me. So it was a lot of different avenues that we had to go down and to get to where we needed to be. Like he gave you the example of the young kids that I wanted to coach, and I didn't know anything about soccer. I looked at video, did all this kind of stuff. And I said, well, he said, well, this is your schedule. You're going to practice this time. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to practice 3 days a week. We're not doing that. So it was a lot of back and forth, a lot of things that we needed to iron out. And we agreed to, I said, well, these are little kids. They need once a week. So we did that. So those little intricate, different little things that he knew that he would do by himself, when I came alongside, it changed. So it had to change. So we had to kind of walk that out and pray about it. And I didn't know that I had come to a time where, okay, we are going to do this thing together, until one day he said something to me that normally would have would have rubbed me the wrong way. It didn't rub me the wrong way. So I knew that prayer was working and that we were going to do this thing and walk together. So
Which piggybacking that, which brings us to nearly, I think around 2001, we had so many years from 95 to 2001 that were up and down, trying to build sports ministry, turn it into a sports ministry. And I want you to understand, these are where we were. It wasn't connected to a church. It was in the neighborhood where we had all walks of life, that everybody didn't know the Lord, weren't born again, that type thing. Everybody didn't understand marriage, or some didn't understand, we had a lot of stuff. And so 2001, we just began to kind of pin our experiences to what we call the call of a mentor. And and that will be coming out on CSRM's resource page very soon. But it's very old, but it was for that time where we were, and we wrote about it. And then one section in there talks about the spouse of a mentor. And so and my wife wrote that. She said, she literally, I just gave her a heading at the top. And I said, what can you speak to this right here? And she left and went in a room. I don't know how long it was. And when she came out, she had just shared her story about the day she knew that, the day she knew she was a mentor, or the day that she knew, and it came from the spouse, not just the woman's spouse, but a male spouse, from a spouse that's not connected to knowing who the spouse is with the vision. And technically, she had more of the vision than I had. I just needed her to come around and do her part. Didn't know it, didn't force her, but when she wrote that, so we put it into a small book form, and she just shared her heart. But I believe it will help some others, which along the way, now we continue to move forward, and the sports ministry grows in such a way, not because of us, but because I believe because as a married couple, we yielded to the will of God. And so we end up then ministering or mentoring or coaching more than 2,000 people over the next 10 years. And we would eventually turn in, from now, we've been around since 95 to today, we turn in from youth sports to adult recreation sports. We have adult softball, and all this came from just a little ministry, a little program in the neighborhood. We also hosted senior Olympics teams and that type thing, and then and our coming together as a married couple, it eventually drew us a partnership, or grew us a partnership with one of the local churches in that area, which would become our partner for the next 20 years. And the local pastor and his wife, they began to just come alongside us, and they just kind of covered our program. And so I just say that to those that are on here, if you are that ministry or that program that's just in the neighborhood, affiliating with a local church, and they just took their part. They never want to take over. They just want to be, eventually they became the chaplains. And so they prayed us through. Now we come from a neighborhood, and I'm not ashamed to say it was drug infested, prostitute inhabited, the drug and crack and stuff that we seen, and prostitutes, they would walk right up to our kids and just tell them, hey, it's time to go to work. We'd also see them where we had to leave and stop coaching outdoor sports around 4:30 in the evening, and it went in the fall, because once it was getting dark, you could hear gunshots at any moment. So now today, that entire neighborhood is transformed. It is we don't have a ton of infested apartments. We have $1 million homes in our neighborhood, stuff like that. I'm not telling you any of this to boast in us. We're boasting in what God has done in our community, and we believe that a lot of it they have written articles about us and stuff in magazines of how we came together as a team, as a unit, which catapulted us now into Marriage Map. And I'm honored to say my wife and I, come November, we will be celebrating our 32nd year of in being married to each other. And I am passionately in love with this woman of God. And so we that has catapulted us to where we are, where we have along the way, during those times of doing sports ministry and serving the community, we would go on. I now have a bachelor's in leadership and management, and I'm a certified life coach working with relationships. My wife went on through we did all this, and I'm gonna say it from God's anointing and helping us, but she went on to go associate's, bachelor's, and now she has a master's degree in marriage and family therapy and counseling. She is the smarter of the two. I want y'all to know that. And so, and from that sports ministry, it spun off now what we call Marriage Map. And I'll let my wife speak into that.
Yes, because we have with our sports ministry, like we have adults and we have kids. Some of our kids belong to the adults that play for us as well. So we have family units in our ministry, and families sometimes have disagreements, parenting issues, marital issues. So God gave us a whole new realm of how we mentor and how we coach separately, which is Marriage Map. So Marriage Map, you see, has 2 P's, MAPP. Marriage Map stands for marriageism, the act, the practice, and the process. God gave us that. I mean, he literally gave us that. We were in 2 separate places.
I'll help you out with that.
Oh, gosh. They can't see it, baby. Okay. Yeah.
Marriageism.
Okay,
you got it.
Okay. We got it.
Okay. All right. I just thought I'd throw that in a little extra there.
That's the coach in him. Anyway, the active practice in the process. So we coach, we mentor couples through the process of marriage. There's an act, of course, you have the actual marriage, the wedding, justice of the peace, however it happened. And then there's the practice that we are, just like we practice sports, we practice football, we practice volleyball, we practice these things. Marriage, you have to practice it to get it right, what is the saying? You play how you practice, or something like that. So we have to practice these things. Right. When I say practice, we have tools that we give married couples. You need to do this. You need to practice these things, and in order to get to the goal that you want to in your marriage. And then the process is the whole thing. Everything is a process. The years gone by. Yes, we've been married 32 years by the end of this year, but it's been a process. Us coming together in sports ministry was a process. It still is a process. We come up with new things. We want to add different sports to our sports ministry. How are we going to do that? What rules do we have? We have bylaws, and these different things is all a process. So we want to make sure that couples can come together in a sports ministry and do this ministry together without bumping heads, because you can't separate the two. You can't say, well, here we're coaches, we're not married, and at home we're married. You're going to be married all the time. And if there's a disagreement on the field, you're going to bring it home. It just happens.
And she's speaking that from truth.
Yeah.
I had to try to lead the program and try to talk to her as a coach on the field. And when we get home and I'd have the same attitude, she's like, whoa, brother, wrong place. So we had to learn how to do that. And so God has blessed us to be able to our first goal was always, we help a lot of couples now, but our goal was always to help the coaches and mentors and that we mentor and that are our mentees within our sports program. It just happened that we thank God that we have clients now in different parts of the country and out of the country, actually, that we get a chance to, and everything is virtual. The pandemic pushed us into being virtual, and we just decided that's the way we're going, because we found that a lot of these coaches and mentors, these couples, in their own setting, really opened up to us, and we could share coaching. So, and which brings me to, so we provide that in services. We don't take mentoring without coaching. We don't miss it, and we have a brochure and everything with that. And you can go to our website at marriagemap.com. But coaching, and my wife will give the definition of coaching, how we see it when it comes to marriage, and then also leading you into mentoring and how that. How we give the definition there. And then therapy is where you would get her individually, or if she feels that she needs to refer you out to more professional partner practices as well. But most of the time we found in this thing of coaching and mentoring that married couples, most of the time, it's not even something major that drove them to the brink of separation or divorce. It's something about, well, you stayed on the field too long coaching, or you didn't want to do your part in the dishes when you got home, or you didn't show me attention. And I'm not talking about on one part of the other, because we've seen it with the man, we've seen it with the woman, and so many, whoever's involved in sportsmanship. But we have to remember to include us both. My entire family, eventually over that past 25 years that program was coming to existence, all got involved. After my sons and daughters played through the program, we found out that a couple of them were excellent coaches, and one was more of an awesome coach than they were anything. Administrator, and would eventually take that spot as administrator. So you'd be surprised when we as a couple, as a team, get on the same page, what it does to our family, what it does to our legacy later on. And so my wife will talk about how we see the definitions of coaching and mentoring and therapy.
We've got just a couple minutes, and so we want to wrap it up here, but give us that definition of coaching.
Sure. It's basically coaching, and sports ministers know what coaching definitely is. But when we come together, coaching is like a playbook or a map to where they want to where they want to get to. So we would develop that with them and coach them through it. Mentoring, we meet a little bit less, maybe once or twice a month, and mentor them. We're trying to come in and kind of put out fires if there's any, or things like that. So we want to just come alongside couples to help them get to whatever their goal is for that time.
And so what you have just heard, as exciting and inspirational as this is what's the podcast that these two are going to be bringing through Overwhelming Victory Radio. And I'm sure that on the screen, as you watch this, all the contact information, McDowells are available for marriage retreats. They're available for different engagements of different kinds. And we're so excited about what you guys are offering to the CSRM community. And I really resonate, what you said, 32 years of marriage. And my wife and I are coming up on 40. And we've had 40 years of marriage, and we've had 37 good years of marriage. and thank God it wasn't all in 3 years, but a day here and a day there.
Yeah.
But it's because of what you talked about, Angela, there about you have to practice this. And nobody has a perfect marriage. Nobody has a perfect walk with Christ. But you're going to help people in your podcast become more perfect because of what your own experiences have been, and we can't thank you enough. Well, we're wrapping up this segment of this overview of Overwhelming Victory Radio. And I think you can get a taste and a feel for what the McDowells are going to bring you in their marriage mentoring one. Sports ministers, you got to grab hold of this because it'll help your marriage, it'll help your family, it'll help your ministry. When we come back, we're going to hear from some other folks, and Bradley Barnes is CSRM's Continental Director for Africa, and we're going to talk about that and what's happening in an international scene, and we're also going to hear more about nationally from some of our other people. So thanks for joining us on this segment of the CSRM podcast. We look forward to communicating to you in the next one about some other podcasts that we're putting together to help you, the local church sports minister.
The CSRM podcast is a production of the Association of Church Sports and Recreation Ministers and their video production house, Overwhelming Victory Flix. Dr. Greg Linville is the executive producer, and Andrew Fouts is associate producer and editor. For more information about CSRM, visit csrm.org. For more information about Overwhelming Victory, visit overwhelmingvictory.org. The CSRM podcast is the flagship member of a new podcast network called Overwhelming Victory Radio. For more information on Overwhelming Victory Radio or to listen to our partner podcasts, visit overwhelmingvictory.org/OVRadio. For CSRM Podcasts, I'm Mike Maloney. Have a blessed day.